But now we have another one that is a powerhouse, this being Elaine Matlala, who's joining us on the other side as an early childhood practitioner who'll just help us make sense of this parenting. We often hear that parenting is complex. It's not a one size fits all. I don't know, with this prevalence of technology, as to whether, it has come through to help us navigate this better, or just to complicate our lives here, because these young ones are often just tight to their gadgets here. It becomes so tricky for you as a parent to navigate this one. But this morning we're talking about the role of smartphones in modern parenting styles, and would like to hear your thoughts as well in terms of how the prevalence of technology has influenced your parenting, how it has really more or less seen you move here. I mean, in the 21st century, we see smartphones having become more than just communication tools. From there, we saw them just move into being central as to how people work, how they socialize, how they manage their daily lives. This would be children as well included here, because you see them as well now, instead of even asking for a doll, a mere toy, something, they want a phone. I want a phone. What do you do as a parent, young as they are, and they're asking for that gadget? And let's talk about it. It's a safe space as well. You're welcome to share your experiences on 0861 987 000. Elaine, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mr Katlego. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing this morning, Elaine?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us, for starting the day with us as well. I mean, it does become somewhat of a tricky one, because there's no one size fits all where this parenting is concerned. But we see the prevalence of technology. We can't avoid it, right? Because even if as parents we say we are avoiding it, like I said, you'd hear the kids, the first thing that they would want when you ask them for their birthday gifts and their presents, they would say, I want a tablet, I want an iPad. And you're like, but aren't you asking for a bicycle or something? It does tell you that we're also raising a crop of smarty pants that would want to not be left behind here. What have been your observations, Elaine, especially where this issue is concerned, the role of smartphones in modern parenting, really?
I really think it's a matter of exposure and conditioning, because we are really conditioning them at home based on what they see us value, and that becomes what they value as well. So I know that there are parents who still have children who don't ask for phones yet, because they've seen their parents value something more like outdoor stuff, nature, hiking, biking, and all of that. And that's what they think. What we do, or what we value, and what we put up there for them is what they'll value as well. So if we expose them to different things, then they tend to gravitate more towards them rather than gadgets. Because I know there are still parents who have children who are 16 that don't have phones.
So it starts with you as a parent in terms of your intentional parenting, as to what then you would want for this young one to navigate, and how then you see them being exposed to some of these issues or some of these gadgets. Do they come as convenience, or do they come as having to take away even from you being able to just monitor the development of the child? Because we often are warned as us as parents to say that be careful of screen time. Our phones sometimes warn us of screen time, being more on the screen than just engaging with the young ones. Do we see this space and just the prevalence of technology somewhat in some instances taking away from you as a parent being present there in your child's life?
Yes, I think one could definitely say it's a matter of convenience, but also just how the world is turning out these days. Everything is technology driven. We've got smart TVs, smartphones, and we're even starting to get things like smart air fryers, And when we go on social media, on YouTube, TikTok, we see people using Siri in the US as a helper in the house. We even have cleaning bots, you know. So yes, it is convenience, but it is the technological age. So it's not something that we can really avoid. Even if you try to go off the grid, you will need some sort of technology somewhere. So we use it, but we also have to be conscious of how we use it, when we use it, and how much our children see us using it.
Yeah, maybe just help us here, because we often hear that it becomes a double-edged sword of some sort, whereby it can work for you, but at the same time it can take away from you. Maybe just give us instances where it works. I mean, you've mentioned now that in this day and age of prevalence of the digital space and the era, I guess it will become, a benefit than somewhat of a concern when you as a parent now just moving and ensuring that you capacitate the young ones to be able to use these devices outside of your absence in the home, because technology has pushed you there. Do give us a sense of the pros and the cons of you finding yourself just within this space as a parent.
Yeah, I definitely think this one is worth a parent sitting down and really thinking about it, because it's not something that you can wing, if you know what I mean. You have to understand the reason why you want to expose them and figure out how you're going to do it. Most of us use cell phones and laptops and all that for work. And if you still work from home post-COVID, then it means your children are seeing you on the device all day, every day. It means you're sitting in front of it 8 hours a day. And then after work, we have our social life where friends will be texting or family will be texting, and that's how we keep in touch with each other. And that still means your children are seeing you after hours on your device. And it can send the wrong message, but if you think about it, you can find a way to still connect with humans, because that's the big difference with technology. You can connect with people on the phone, but you miss the human interactions in that. So the pros are convenience, but the cons are that you miss out on those vital human connections that you cannot get from WhatsApp or TikTok and all that. And that eye contact, that physical touch, that showing affection, it's a tricky space to navigate.
Yeah, it does indeed become tricky. But let me remind our listeners at home that you find us in conversation this morning with Elaine Matlala. Elaine is coming through as an early childhood practitioner. She's joining us this morning in our parenting corner, and we're talking about smartphones, the technology, and how it influences our parenting here, looking at all of these developments in these day and age, the modern era. It's something else, right? So you find us active and live on 0861 987 000. If you want to, ask a question as a parent, if you want to more or less share your thoughts as well this morning in terms of how you're doing it, please do school us, help us here, because we do hear that it's not a one size fits all. So there on X as well, we go by at Power FM 987 at Katlego Legodi _ I wanted to just check in here, Elaine, in terms of, striking somewhat of a balance or introducing controls. Can that be somewhat of a possibility for you as a parent, where you're intentional, even though you know very well that you can't avoid it altogether? Because we see even at schools now, they do advise these kids to have tablets, to have iPads, and they give them school that is linked to technology, and you don't have a choice, but you have to buy them some of these gadgets. But is there a way that you can, as a parent, strike somewhat of a balance here, or introduce controls, set limits as to how then this child uses this device, or what they get exposed to, looking at the fact that you can't then be with them 24/7 to see what is it that they are exposed to in these gadgets? Do you see parents, having that opportunity to be intentional around just, striking somewhat of a balance or introducing controls?
Yes, I definitely think so, because I think before we give them the device, we have to sit down with them and talk about what our expectations are, how we're going to use this thing, when we're going to use it. So, for example, I know there are families that when they come home from work, or when they come home from wherever, then devices go on a table or in a drawer or in a box, and we connect with each other in the home. And if we need to use the internet for something, then it's a desktop in a communal area where everyone can see what you're doing and all that. There are parents who don't allow children to use their phones in their rooms with the door closed. There are various apps on social media, or on our Play stores, on our app stores, that we can get that allow us to track and monitor what our children are doing. So there are definitely ways to control it, but I think it comes down to the decision that you make as a parent for the purpose that you give your child the gadget. If it's for school, then we use it only for school, and that's what it's for. If it's for communication, you have it when, for example, you're away from your child, and you need to communicate with them if you drop them off at an extramural or something. And there are different things that we need it for. But the main thing is that conversation you're going to have with your child in the beginning. And also to be consistent and follow up on that. Not to just say, you can't use your phone at 8 o'clock. And then when your child is using the phone at 8 o'clock, you're just too tired. You don't have the energy to have that fight, and then you let them go. Because if you're not consistent, then you also lose that control as a parent.
So you have to be intentional about just setting the ground rules, the house rules as well, in terms of ensuring that they are present as well in this space. It does become tricky when you are not there, because often that is the risk, right, Elaine? We go to work, we come back home, we are tired, and at times it may be tricky for us to be being surveillancing and monitoring as to what this child does. So having somewhat of a framework, something that works for your family, like what you said, in terms of ensuring that at this time there's a cut-off time and we all just place our gadgets in the drawer, that becomes a thing, that you introduce these things also to help you in case then these are issues that are out of control. Because often again we know very well that there are a lot of issues that are playing themselves out. Just earlier on we were talking about the issue of child safety, and we are really looking at how then even us as parents we can play a role and not find ourselves having exposed our children to some of these things. The issue of pornography on some of these spaces is something that is out of hand. Even on social media where these kids would play at, there's that element as well. So sometimes we may think that we are helping the kids, only to find out that we are actually exposing them to even human traffickers.
Yeah, it's true. And also just to bring into play the mental health aspect. Children are really struggling with mental health these days, and it's something that was almost rare when we were growing up. But now children are struggling with suicide, anxiety, depression. It's too much for them to handle. They don't know how to handle it, and we're absent sometimes. We're not present. We don't know what's going on. We don't know who they're talking to. And these predators, they use platforms like Roblox, games that our children love to play, Minecraft. And if we're not paying attention, our children fall into these pits very quickly.
That is something else, right? And it does that, right? The issue of them being exposed and us not tapping into their mental well-being. It can be something else. Do we have to worry as well around the companies that they keep? One of the issues that we saw playing itself out even in some of these schools would be the WhatsApp groups, right? These young ones would find themselves being part of. When you look at the examination time as well, you hear that these are issues that came out in the WhatsApp groups as well, that would see children coerced into doing wrong things here because maybe probably one of them would have influenced them to say this is the right way to go. The issue of the company that they keep, what they are exposed to, the groups that they form part of, this then becomes important. As a parent, you need to know where your child is and who they get to hang out with, because that would give you a sense of how they often say, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. So this must be in a way that thing of you as a parent being intentional about knowing who is in your child's life.
It's very true, and it's something that's so important for us to be able to know what's going on in our children's lives, and that comes also to the bond that we have with our children. It's tricky in this age because when the phone is always in your face, it seems like the phone is more important than they are, even if it's not. So we need to be intentional also about creating that bond or forming that bond with them that will let them know that you're interested, you want to hear what they've got to say, and when you come back from school, have time to catch up, have time to figure out how they're doing, meet their friends families if possible, the people that they hang out with, that they talk to the most, get to know them as well so that you're able to know when your child is not okay. Because most of us, we kind of leave it to them, but they're not developed enough to be able to be responsible over those things.
Elaine, what would be your message, as we wrap up here, what would be your message to parents that have really been going through the most? It's not an easy journey. I think it becomes even more complex now because of the kids knowing they know a lot. And I don't know if it does come through for us and help us to say we have kids that are knowledgeable now and everything else, or it works against us as parents. We do have parents that are saying it's so tricky to parent this generation compared to how we were parented back in the years. So how do you, what would be your message to them? Because I know it's not a one size fits all, but those that are going through the most here, maybe let's just try come through for them and bring a little bit of light this morning.
I think what I could say or what I could offer them is that it's never too late to actually build that trust relationship with your child. It's never too late. Love is always the easiest thing to bring people together. So if your child has sort of gotten sucked into their device and you're struggling with your relationship, maybe just take time to get to know them, bond with them, do things that both of you will enjoy that don't involve phones, in order for you to really connect with them, and seek help. It's okay to seek help. If you notice that your child is really not okay, if you're not able to reach out to them or get through to them, have a common person in their lives that they trust, that they can talk to. And you never know, maybe the issue is not as big as we think it is, but we always have to try and just connect with them. I think the connectivity will really go a long way for us.
And therapy, what is your thoughts on that?
Therapy is a great way. It varies, obviously, for different children, different ages. In the younger years, you'll do something like play therapy, occupational therapy. And in the older ages, it will have to be talking to someone. But I think that we have to also know that our children, though they may be difficult at whatever age they are, they still just really crying out for that relationship with mommy or daddy. We are the center of their lives, and if we can get that right, then we won't really need things like therapy.
Yeah, we just have to be present and intentional, right? And be aware of all of these stages that, that some of them grow up very early. So we need to always play catch up, but be intentional around being present and seek help. I think I'm taking that, with me this morning, that do seek help. You're not alone. You may find that it's not as complex as you may think that it is, or it may be. Elaine, we're out of time. I have to let you go. But how do we connect with you? How do we direct people your way? Those that are listening to us this morning and may want to pick your brain or know some more around these issues, especially when we're talking parenting, how do we direct them your way? Who are you on social media?
On social media, you can just look for Elaine Matlala. But I'm most active on TikTok as the Children's Advocate. And that's where people can connect with me.
Elaine, do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much for always giving us your time, for your wisdom as well. Where some of these complex matters are concerned, you really do come through for us, and we appreciate that. Please come back and let's touch base soon.
Thank you so much, Mr Katlego.
Really, really appreciated. Elaine Matlala coming through here as an early childhood practitioner, helping us make sense of some of these complex matters where parenting is concerned. But you hear her saying that you're not alone. As a parent, you're not alone. Yours is not an isolated matter. So when you reckon, you think you can, you even contemplating throwing in the towel here or just giving up on this young one, please don't. There's always light on the other side. That's how we say goodbye to you this morning. A big thank you to Karabo Masia for coming through as a children safety advocate, Dr. Zintle Mazibukomtsweni for coming through as a medical practitioner, but also to Elaine Matlala, an early childhood practitioner, a children advocate. And you hear that really the day today and the theme was just centered around young ones. Please, let's just take care of them, but also take care of ourselves in the process, and do check in as much as we can. That's how we say goodbye.